Please tell me how to politely call out my mother-in-law for being as little help as possible. It was the first time she had ever done my hair, and lo and behold, it did not go according to plan. My opinion on this might be a little bit controversial. Wanting you to book the wedding in order to have a trial. Caterer yelled at bride-to-be over menu choices, then last minute added bride's allergen to her favorite dish. For lack of a better word, honestly, I think it's a bit tacky. Welcome to Wedding Wednesday, the podcast that's about to spill all the tea on what it's like to plan a wedding from the bride's perspective and all the details no one talks about. I'm creating the podcast I need to keep me sane and feeling less alone as I plan my own wedding. We're diving deep into the hilarious, messy, and sometimes crazy world of wedding planning and wedding horror stories. Get ready to laugh, cry, and maybe feel a little less alone in this wedding planning madness. Hello. Welcome back to Wedding Wednesday, episode 6. In today's episode, we have quite a packed episode. I have done quite a bit of planning in the last few weeks, so I'm really excited to share my wedding planning update. We have some listener questions as well that were submitted, all about navigating pricing and navigating mother-in-law things, so that'll be interesting to look at. Next, I'm going to share Pinterest finds that I think are cool, but that I will absolutely not be doing at my wedding. So switching gears for this episode today. And then lastly, we're obviously going to be sharing some fun wedding related horror stories that I found on Reddit. So with that, let's get into our episode. All right, wedding planning update. So last I left off, we were talking to a videographer. I've since asked for multiple quotes from photographers, videographers, makeup artists, and hair. So those are the 4 things that I decided to tackle next. We have booked our venue and we're happy with that. The next things that I wanted to tackle was to make sure I was absolutely going to have the perfect wedding video and the perfect pictures that I really, really wanted. So I went on a rampage searching for a bunch of photographers and videographers on Instagram. People are sending me some, my friends, my family members, they're sending me like other accounts that they've stumbled upon, so I can go ahead and just submit questions or submit quotes or ask for quotes from all of these vendors. And in each quote that I'm getting back, I'm analyzing a few things. So firstly, I'm looking at all the package offers, like package options that they have. Second thing I'm looking into is how much is included per package, like what is actually included in those packages. And of course, I'm asking to see full wedding films and full photo galleries from weddings, because I've noticed a lot of photographers on their Instagram, it will look like they are the world's best photographer or videographer because their edits are really engaging for those Instagram posts and their entire feed is completely curated, so it's really beautiful. However, when you actually get back an entire collection of pictures from one of the weddings that like really caught your eye on their Instagram page, for example, it's not always 100% nice. I'm not expecting, 800 pictures to be all 100% like stunning shots, but I am expecting at least 80% of the collection to be really beautiful. And so I noticed a lot of photographers, they're extracting their best shots and they're putting that on their Instagram. So that's something that I've been keeping an eye out, is that whenever I'm evaluating a photographer or a videographer, I want to see like the full end result and whether or not I actually like that. So I've seen so far one photographer where I liked most of their collection, but most of the photographers that I've seen, I'm not super impressed, if you will. We're looking for a specific style. So that's, I guess, one thing that you have to keep in mind is like, what are you actually looking for? That's something I've been asking myself. We're looking for something romantic, a bit editorial, but that's not too moody. I notice a lot of photographers have really either a moody style or they have like that really clean, crisp vibe. Both are super nice, but we're looking for something in between, and to find a photographer who does something in between like that has been quite challenging. So last I've looked at that is I don't know who we're going to go for. I've gotten like 10 quotes back. I want to be super impressed with all the pictures that I see from the photographer we're going to choose, and I just haven't found that perfect fit just yet. So that's still ongoing. Videographer is another thing that has been really challenging to navigate, because It seems like, again, we've asked at least 10 videographers for quotes back. With that, we also asked to see full wedding films. And I would like a film sitting at around 10 minutes, let's say. Some videographers will only offer films that are like 3-4 minutes long. Some offer films that are 20-25 minutes long. Also a really cool option, but I think that would be maybe a bit too long for what we're looking for. We're looking for that 10-minute mark. So I'm asking videographers to send me their longest films because a lot of them just do like 8 to 10 minutes, some 15. Watching through all of them, not necessarily just looking at one, but we're for every videographer who sends us like 10 films, like I'm sitting through all of them and watching them, because you notice a theme in their edits and the way they film when you can see multiple of their films, for one. And for two, you just get a feel for whether or not you even like the way that they edit. But the majority of them, the videographers and the films that we've seen, all really pull at the heartstrings, which you want that for a wedding. Obviously, you want to feel that romantic sentimentalness of a video, come through from the day. But I find that some of them lack just like those little funny moments in the day that happen, or the way that they edit is not super engaging for the user to sit and watch through. So I stumbled upon a wedding video that I absolutely loved, and I sent it to a few videographers whose style we were leaning a bit more towards to see whether or not they were willing to do this similar style, this other style that I had seen. Some of them said maybe, some of them said no, and then some of them said, yes, we would love to do that. So that's where we're at with the videographers. I've had a few calls with some videographers. A lot of them are super professional, which is awesome. You obviously want to work with somebody who's professional and who has experience shooting weddings. But then I guess when it comes to the vision of editing the video, you have to know exactly what you want. Otherwise, they're just going to edit your video in the way that they feel is the best fit. But if that's not what you're looking for, there's going to be a disconnect there. So I'm also learning like how to work with these vendors and how to like help them help us at the same time. So that's been interesting to navigate. I showed some of the videos that some of the vendors, some of the videographers and their videos that we were exploring to my friends. And some of my friends are also photographers. They don't do weddings, but they do like lifestyle, and they were helping me navigate, okay, like I think this person can understand the vision that you're going for more easily versus another. So that's a really good tip for any brides looking for guidance on who they want to go with for their videographer, photographer. Ask your friends who are maybe also in the industry for their opinion on what they think you should ask for when it comes to what you're looking for, if that makes sense. So that's where we're at with that. Makeup and hair is a whole other thing that I've been running into. And I was chatting with my little private group of brides about this. And they were saying that, I was kind of like venting in there saying, oh, has anybody run into the issue of makeup artists and hair stylists wanting you to book the wedding in order to have a trial? And most of them said, yeah, but you have to find some artists that are willing to do a trial with you that are not necessarily needing to book your date right away. So I just kept asking for quotes, pushing, looking for new hair and makeup artists, sending like requests for pricing, things like that in their process. And finally stumbled upon two hair and makeup artists who were willing to have me do a trial without booking the wedding day, but are willing to have a soft hold for my wedding day at least. They said, but if somebody asks for your wedding day and you haven't booked it yet, even though we've done the trial, I'll let you know, but I do have to give them the right to reserve your wedding day if, they want to book me first. I said, that's okay. As long as you let me know, just give me a heads up. So we have maybe the right to just say, hey, no, like we want to move forward first, but otherwise like totally understand that you want to book out that day. So by all means, So anyways, I've booked my hair trial. I've booked my makeup trial. And we're a year and a half away from my wedding. So it's really far in advance. And the purpose of me doing this first initial trial, which yes, I will be probably doing another one closer to the wedding day, really at this stage is just to see if I even like working with the artist, the hair and makeup artist. Do I like how my makeup feels that day? Do I like how she styles my hair? Do we get along? Those are really important things that you need to outline before you even book who you're going to work with. Because if you end up booking somebody that on Instagram, you like their things, but on you, like it just doesn't vibe. It doesn't work. It's not going to end well. Case in point, at my engagement party, the salon that I reached out to in order to do my hair, I wanted to book my typical hairstylist, and he wasn't available at the day and time that I needed him for my engagement party hair. And so they recommended somebody else at that salon. They sent me pictures of their work. They said they could do it. It looked good. I said, okay, let's go ahead and book it with her. It was the first time she had ever done my hair. And lo and behold, it did not go according to plan. She was delayed on starting my hair. I was sitting in her chair for an hour and a half instead of an hour. I only had an hour when she was trying to like smooth out the flyaways from my hair, and she was doing not a good job at it. I ended up rushing home, taking out my entire ponytail, redoing it, slicking my hair back to like make sure the flyaways stayed and held for the whole evening, and then went off to my engagement party. So I want to avoid having that happen to me ever again, which is why I'm choosing to do a really early hair and makeup trial, and then we'll do another one. Once we decide who I actually want to work with for my wedding day for my hair and makeup, then I'll book them for my wedding day, and then I'll do a makeup trial and a hair trial again closer to my date when I have my dress, when I even know like what I'm even going to wear, because I haven't even entertained going shopping just yet. So that is a really long-winded full wedding planning update. Next time, I'll let you know whether or not we've decided on a videographer or photographer and how the hair and makeup trial also went. Let me know where you're at in your wedding planning journey. Would love to know in the comments too. Okay, we're diving into Pinterest finds aesthetically, like design-wise for your wedding reception that I will absolutely not be doing at my wedding. And I will dive into every single one and tell you why. So the first one is a lot of draping, excessive draping. There was a big influencer who did this at her wedding. She did like this huge, I forget her name now. I'll put her name on the screen. But she did this like huge excessive draping. And I think it's a current trend that looks really nice in the moment for now, but it's just not for me. And I don't think it's going to have longevity personally. And I also feel as though if you do so much draping at your wedding reception, it's almost like you're walking into a bed fort, if you will. Like that's the thing that I'm picturing when I see this excessive draping. Like it just feels like you're under the sheets. You made a fort on your bed when you were like 12 years old. And that's like the vibe it feels for me. Yes, it can look super elegant if you do it tastefully and if you do it a little bit, in my opinion, but this excessive draping is a trend that I'm just not going to be doing at my wedding for me. I might do a little bit of draping. I don't know. Again, still trying to figure out my theme and things, but the excessiveness of the draping where it's like literally all over the room, not for me. The second trend this is also a trend. The second trend I've witnessed myself at a wedding and I've seen, all over Pinterest are these violinists that are standing on these like really tall structures wearing this like really shimmery dress that like almost looks like, again, like a drape actually. And they're just playing the violin as you're walking into the wedding reception. Okay. What my issue with this personally is that I just don't think it's aesthetically pleasing. The music is beautiful. The idea of having somebody playing some music as you're walking into the wedding reception, I think it's also really beautiful, and we might do this too. But the whole concept of standing on this thing and like being like almost like a showpiece, it's just, I find not the most elegant, for lack of a better word. Honestly, I think it's a bit tacky. And if you had this at your wedding or you want to do this at your wedding, by all means, like do it. Do not let me tell you what you should and shouldn't do at your wedding. I'm just saying what I won't be having at my wedding. This is a trend that I'm not interested in having at my wedding. I just don't think it's going to fit my vibe personally, and it's just not for me. But if it's for you, I would love to hear from you what you love about this trend in the comments too. The last trend that I will absolutely not be doing at my wedding is adding extra chandeliers to my venue. You may have seen these beautiful tablescapes, wedding decor, wedding receptions in like Lake Como, let's say, like on the border of a beautiful hill or lake or whatever, where they're also adding on top of this table these really long chandeliers that are kind of hanging over the table. I don't find them the most beautiful. Maybe they have a functionality behind those chandeliers. Maybe because if it's an outdoor wedding, you're adding those chandeliers to add light. Maybe there's just no lighting, and that's the purpose behind those chandeliers. But visually, for me, I just don't think they're that elegant. I think they're really clunky, and they draw your eye right away. It's the first thing you see when you look at a tablescape like this, or a wedding reception venue like this, where there's these excessive chandeliers, and it just won't be something we're going to be doing at our wedding. First of all, our wedding reception will be indoors. Second of all, there are chandeliers in our venue, which we cannot take down. Like, they're there. It is what it is. But I won't be adding additional chandeliers. That is for sure. And I think this is a trend that in 10 years time, people are going to look back on and think, yeah, that was clunky and maybe not necessarily a vibe. Again, if you're interested in this trend and you're thinking about entertaining this for your wedding, would love to hear what it is about the design that you love, and we can have just a conversation about it in the comments below. All right, we got some questions from our listeners that I really want to address with you guys. So here we go. I'm going to answer one by one. So someone asked, how do I navigate people around me assuming things about my wedding? For example, a friend of mine was expecting to be my bridesmaid and go wedding dress shopping with me, but I wasn't planning on having a bridal party at all. What should I say to her? This is super touchy because your friends, if you're not going to have a bridal party, your friends, and your friends don't know that yet at least, or your entourage, it's really hard to break that bubble because they're super excited. They're expecting you to ask them to be in your bridal party, and it's really, really challenging. I'm personally not having a bridal party. I'm having a maid of honor. That's it. So this is something that I've navigated a little bit with some of my friends as well, where they're expecting me to ask them to come wedding dress shopping with me and to be a bridesmaid. And I've just kind of had to sit them down and have delicate conversations with them. So one thing I've done is I've just kind of announced to everybody, guys, like, we're just not having a bridal party. I'm having just my maid of honor, and that's it. But I will be including you. I'm also saying what I'll be including them in. I'm like, you guys are going to be included in the bridal shower. You're for sure going to be included in the bachelorette. Whenever I have these questions about vendors, I'm going to be reaching out to you and asking you. So it makes them feel like we're still including them as part of my wedding planning journey, which, they're happy to be a part of, without having to put the pressure on me as the bride to also have a wedding party when I don't feel comfortable having one. So that's one thing I've done, is just kind of like a sandwich, compliment sandwich, you say a compliment, then you say oh, but we're choosing not to have the bridal party, and you're ending on a compliment. That's one thing. Another thing I've done is I've kind of switched the scenario back on them. So let's say they ask, will I be a bridesmaid at your wedding? I would turn to them and I would say, well, what would you do in a scenario like this? Let's say you had a bunch of friends, a bunch of cousins, a bunch of family, and you could only have a limit of, let's say, 3 to 5 bridesmaids. What would you choose to do? It makes them think. It ends up making them put themselves in your shoes and understand your situation. And they end up coming to the conclusion by themselves that you came to the same conclusion of. So for example, let's say your friends wanted to go wedding dress shopping with you, but you just wanted to bring your mom. Okay. This is actually something that I'm going through right now. I'm thinking about who I want to bring. I'm thinking maybe I want to go alone. Maybe I just want to bring my mom. I don't know yet. So I would flip around to my friend and say, okay, well, if you were going wedding dress shopping, who would you want there? And then they makes them think you know what? It may be overwhelming to have a bunch of people there. Then I go, it's definitely could be overwhelming. So I'm having them come to that same conclusion themselves. So then they understand where I'm sitting. And if I don't end up asking them to come wedding dress shopping with me, it's an easier conversation to have, and they'll be more likely to understand where I'm coming from because they've literally sat there and put themselves in my shoes for a second, just because I kind of flipped it back on them. So those are the 2 things I've done to help this sort of scenario. But it is, at the end of the day, it is a very difficult situation to navigate, but is doable too. Someone else asked, looking in the Boston area / just outside of it, costs seem crazy. It is about $10K each at a minimum to look at the following: wedding planner, photographer, florist, likely catering. How can one figure this out at a lower cost? It is crazy. It easily becomes a $50K plus on a wedding. Okay, so this is my advice to you here. Our engagement party was a fraction, literally so much less than what we're going to be paying on the wedding. And for a few reasons. First of all, our engagement party, let me preface this by saying, was like a mini wedding. It really was. We didn't mean for it to become that. It got a little out of hand, but in the best way possible. So we ended up throwing a little mini engagement party, a little mini wedding, because we had a full itinerary of the evening. There was a cake, there was a first dance, there was a DJ, there was a photographer, there was all the things, okay? But I'll tell you what are the few things, and we also had 80 guests, which for some people is actually a wedding size. So my tip here is do it at a restaurant. We did it at a restaurant. We negotiated a rate on what we're going to pay for the food, which really helped bring all the costs down significantly. So that's one thing that you could look at, is not doing it at a typical venue, but doing it at a location that's already by default less expensive. So a restaurant is a great thing. The photographer that I had asked to come and shoot our engagement party was one of my friends. You know, I've worked with him before. I work with a lot of photographers in my business. And so I had asked him to come and help me shoot the engagement party at a reasonable rate. He gave me a really great price, and off we were with that. Were they the most, aesthetically pleasing pictures? No, but they captured the moment. They captured the essence of the evening. You can see us having fun in the party, at the engagement party. We got a picture with every single guest there pretty much. He captured the food really beautifully, but we didn't get those aesthetic shots of like by the sunset. Fair enough. Maybe would have cost a bit more there. But, just having somebody that you're close to who is willing to kind of do you a bit of a favor that you're obviously going to pay. You're obviously paying them for this event, but just having that conversation of like it being a bit more relaxed can also help bring the cost down. The cake that we did a 2-tiered cake that was for 30 people just to cut in front of everybody. And we had a sheet cake in the back for the rest of the guests. So it ended up being enough cake, obviously, for everyone without paying $1,000 for a cake, $2,000 for a cake. So we paid significantly less for the cake. My dress, I was just shopping online. I found a beautiful dress online that I loved. So that was also reasonably priced, in my opinion, compared to obviously a typical wedding dress. The average wedding dress starts at around $2,000, and my engagement party dress was a lot less than that. So that's something else you can look at. So that's like kind of the overall theme here that I'm trying to say is, if you want a lower cost wedding, think outside the box. Go out and ask your friends. Our DJ was one of our good friends. He charges also a good rate. Those are the things that help contribute to a less expensive wedding if you want to have a less expensive wedding, but that can also make it just as equally beautiful. I planned the whole thing myself. We did a candy bar. It was really fun. That's also not super expensive versus getting an outside vendor to come and do the food, the sweet table or the midnight table. We got a candy bar. It was a huge hit, and that was not too expensive. So just think outside the box a little bit. Maybe look at it from a more relaxed perspective too, and maybe try and avoid using the word wedding. Maybe use the word engagement instead. So that's my advice for you if you want a lesser expensive wedding. Next, someone asked, please tell me how to politely call out my mother-in-law for being as little help as possible. Oof. My opinion on this might be a little bit controversial. Honestly, it's not up to your mother-in-law to step up and help you. That's my real opinion on this. You're the bride and groom, you're the couple, you're the newlyweds. It's your wedding. It's on you guys to plan it, to do everything to make sure it gets done. I don't know why there's that expectation that your family should help you. That expectation shouldn't be there. If your family wants to help you and you're welcoming that help, by all means, welcome it. But that expectation shouldn't be put on other people because it is your day. You guys chose to get married. And at the end of the day, I think it is on you. Now, that being said, can you ask politely for a little bit of help? Of course. If let's say your mother-in-law is really good at baking, okay, you can say to her, hey, you're really great at baking. I would love your help in helping me find the perfect cake for my wedding. Would you be willing to help me with that? And she might be super receptive to that. She might not also be realizing that you need help. Maybe she thinks that you're all good and she doesn't want to impose. So just having an honest conversation and testing out the waters by looping her in with a decision that she might be really helpful with could be one way to open that door to have her help you out. You obviously don't want to come from a confrontational place because that just makes people defensive. That's a bad idea if you ask me. But you can politely see like where she's sitting by just asking her to help you out with this one decision to start. So that would be my advice to you there. Those are all of our listeners' questions. We're going to go ahead and read our first Reddit horror story for today. And it is titled, My Fiance Isn't Invited to a Wedding I'm the Maid of Honor In. Oh gosh, been there. In case you haven't seen episode 1 of Wedding Wednesday, go back and watch episode 1 on how I personally was the maid of dishonor at one of my best friend's weddings because this exact thing happened to me. But anyways, let's read this thread. My best friend is getting married this spring and she asked me to be the maid of honor. Of course I agreed, but never considered that my fiance wouldn't be invited. She and I got engaged 2 weeks apart, and my wedding is less than a month after hers. I've been intending on inviting her fiance since before I knew they were getting married before me. I was supposed to get married months before her, and she moved hers up. I think he would have been invited if we were already married because I know she invited spouses of other people. But we barely missed the cutoff. She told me that her parents didn't want plus ones since they're already not able to invite all of their family. I understand her parents not wanting random plus ones, but I'm her best friend, maid of honor, and this is my fiance, not my boyfriend of the month. She's inviting like 100 people and my wedding is only 20 people, but it never would have crossed my mind to not invite her fiance, even though I'd rather him not be there because I barely know him and it's pretty much just our immediate family coming. But I would never make her travel to my wedding alone and not have her man there. I haven't responded to her text yet because I have no idea what to say. I don't want to cause a fight. We've never had any issues, but am I in the wrong? I'm going to be planning her bridal shower and her bachelorette weekend, and I feel like the least she could do is invite my fiance, who will be my husband 1 month later. Also, I will be traveling far to get to the wedding, and it would be nice to travel and be able to stay in a hotel with my fiance, and maybe even get to stay an extra day with him and explore instead of twiddling my thumbs alone at a hotel and then coming home. Any input/advice? This is wild to me. I don't know, like somebody should make a wedding etiquette rule book or something. Let me read the comments. Someone said, that's so crazy of your friend to not invite your fiance. He's not a quote plus one. He should be a named guest. I'm so sorry. I would be extremely hurt if my friend made that choice, rubbing salt in the wound that you will need to travel for it and do so much planning for the various events. No way. She goes, thank you. And yeah, I'm not really feeling up to planning her events now. She goes, somebody responded, exactly. A spouse or other established partner is not a plus one. That's a couple. You don't invite one person in a couple and not the other. It's incredibly rude. I totally agree, especially in a day and age where not everybody chooses to get married, but they do choose to commit to each other and be each other's life partner. For some reason, society has not seen that sort of commitment is necessarily worth just as much as a marriage. In the province that I live, if you live together for more than a year, you're considered married. Like it's, I don't know why this hasn't become kind of the norm nowadays. And so it's totally disrespectful for your best friend not to invite your fiance when you're the maid of honor. It's totally, totally disrespectful. And it's a line that you cross. Somebody else said, when you say you haven't responded to her text, did she straight up text you he isn't invited, or did your invitation just say your name? That's a great question, actually. She responded, she goes, I haven't received my invitation yet. I have access to her wedding website because she sent it to me already. And when I searched my name on the RSVP page, only my name popped up, even though your whole party is supposed to pop up. I thought it had to be a mistake. So I texted her something about how I'm trying to figure out what airport my fiance and I should fly into. And then she responded about what her parents said. She said she would talk to them though, but that she just feels like something she said to me make me feel better since her invitations are already printed. And obviously she didn't want to tell me that he wouldn't be invited. I don't know. She asked for advice, tips. My advice here would be, you got to sit her down and speak to her. You're not going to be willing to do all the bachelorette things and such if your fiance is not invited. I totally relate to this because that's exactly how I felt when this happened to me. And lo and behold, because we ended up having a conversation, like we parted ways and I was not the right fit for her to be her maid of honor in the end. And that was okay. But you have to speak to her. It's very sad that weddings make people so weird. And it's really sad that people are so disrespectful as well towards your partner. But something about weddings makes things come to light. And sometimes this is put in your path because maybe she wasn't meant to be your best friend. Or maybe she is, and this is a whole misunderstanding. So my advice here would be chat with her. Oh, here's another one where it's exactly the same crass situation. Not exactly the same, but anyways, you'll see. Married couples only invited to the wedding, despite us being together longer than the happy couple. This grinds my gears. Like, what the heck? Okay, let's just get into it. My partner and I were originally sent the save the date for the wedding of his good university friend, both bride and groom in their late 20s. We all live in the same city and have probably hung out as couples once a month ever since post-COVID when they moved here. My partner was originally asked to be a groomsman before it was decided that the wedding party would be family only. Totally understandable as there are 6 siblings combined. We got the save the date 12 months in advance and an invite in both our names about 3 months ago. The wedding is next month. Yesterday, my partner went out for a drink with the groom and was told that he was so sorry, but unfortunately, I was having my invite rescinded as they have decided that all +1s have to be engaged or married. I and several other girls/boyfriends have been removed from the attendee list, and even some of their aunts and uncles are being told that their partners cannot attend anymore. When asked why, they have supposedly decided that they want their wedding day to be, quote, a true celebration of love, and therefore only wanted, quote, committed couples in attendance. If it wasn't clear from the title, my partner and I have been in a relationship longer than the bride and groom. We've been together 9 years this year. Their wedding day will only be on the day of their 6th anniversary. Neither of us have any interest in getting married, and everyone in our lives knows this, and we thought respected our decision. My partner is still invited. Thankfully, the wedding is in the local area, so there were no prepaid expenses for us, though I know some of the other couples won't be so lucky. My partner still hasn't made his mind up on whether or not to attend. I'm content either way on his decision. It honestly doesn't hurt to be told in an around the house's way that someone thinks my relationship is less than theirs because we are not going to get married, but I'm choosing to sit back and watch it unfold rather than get upset on someone else's behalf. And after about a dozen weddings in my lifetime, I now get one I can post about on this sub. Somebody said in the comments, that is so tacky, it's crazy. You were already invited. It's obviously because they have run out of money and think that excuses is less embarrassing than saying they can't afford the size of the wedding they initially wanted. If I was your boyfriend, I would be like, sorry to hear you're having financial difficulties. I understand things are expensive at the moment, so I'll help by not attending as well. Oh gosh, somebody responded to that. I don't know. I feel like the cost excuse is way less embarrassing than what they actually said. I agree with this. I can't believe the groom was willing to say that the OP's partner's face, that to the OP's partner's face. I don't know. This totally has nothing to do with, quote, committed couples only. I mean, boyfriend is still welcome alone as a single guy, but OP is not welcome as a single girl. What they actually achieve here is having more, quote, single people than loving couples at their wedding. Somebody said, you're their friend or they're not. So rude. I don't know. This is super touchy. Like, this is not something that I think is okay. I can understand if the couple has only been together maybe a year, you know, you're less comfortable giving a +1. The +1 wasn't given from the get-go. Okay, I guess that could slide a little bit more. But if they've been in a longer relationship than the bride and groom and they've already been invited, it's very tacky, for lack of a better word, to not invite them. I don't agree with this personally, but would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Has this happened to you? And would you take an invitation back and give that excuse as we're not giving +1s anymore? Or would you actually admit that it was a price thing? Would love to know. Oh my God. We're going to read one more. This one's really funny. Okay, this one's a good one. Caterer yelled at bride-to-be over menu choices, then last minute added bride's allergen to her favorite dish. Can you imagine that? On her wedding day. Oh my gosh. This is not my wedding, but my fiance's sister's wedding. She held her reception at a restaurant with a stunning garden and space, but the owner was so horrible to her. When planning the courses, she could choose 2 first courses between many choices, which in my country is usually pasta, ravioli, rice. She chose a pasta dish with deer ragu and ravioli with ricotta and spinach. The owner started yelling at her that she must choose a rice dish because 2 pasta dishes is not traditional, and she refused not to serve at least one kind of risotto. The bride tried to ask if there was a reason for this, as it was not previously stated, and the owner said that she just hates when there's no risotto at weddings she is a guest at. No other reason. Then the owner also refused to plan the dishes for veg, celiac, or allergies. She said the kitchen would choose on the wedding day what to cook for them. The bride is allergic to milk. The bride decided to go along with it, ignoring the red flags because she really liked the deer pasta which she tasted. Then the wedding lunch arrives. The food is good, but the diet restriction substitute are embarrassing. Like pureed raw vegetables instead of risotto, plain polenta with boiled mushrooms instead of cheese polenta, and steak for full price. The bride was so disappointed and hungry, but she kept saying she was just waiting for the deer ragu pasta. Then the waiter gave it to everyone else but her. Then she received crappy plain gluten-free pasta with no sauce. She asked why, and the waiter replied, "I'm sorry, today we put butter in the sauce." The bride was in tears at this point. So here's the reason I am really scared of dealing with vendors for my future wedding. Wow. Crazy. There's an edit here. Let me read. Edit. I checked that place online out of curiosity, and it turns out it filed bankruptcy and the rude owner had sold the restaurant to someone else. Someone in the comments said, that vendor sucked. Don't be scared about dealing with vendors for your own wedding. Just don't go somewhere the staff feels comfortable yelling at you and disrespecting you, and this won't happen. In my opinion, it's not as black and white. I think, first of all, you got to meet your vendors before you sign for anything, obviously, right? And I feel as though you need to get a sense for the vendors. And if your gut tells you have a really good feeling about this vendor, then I think it's a safer choice than going with a vendor that you think seems okay, but aren't super sure about. So that would be my advice here for this bride or for any brides looking to book any vendor. A, meet with your vendor before you book with them. B, see how your gut feels when you're around them. Like, do you have a good feeling or do you not? C, speak to your partner, see how they feel. And D, read the Google reviews. Seriously, like the Google reviews says a lot about a place. So if all of the boxes are checked and you get a good feeling across the board, then by all means, you're more likely to work with a great vendor than unlikely. But if you feel like that little voice inside your head is saying, I don't know, this is maybe not the right vendor for me, but we'll see, like, we'll just go with it. Like, don't just brush under the rug. Like, listen to your gut, see how you feel, and make the decision that way. that is our show for today. If you guys have any crazy horror stories that we can read here on the pod, feel free to send it at hello@weddingwednesdaypod.com and we'll be more than happy to read it here on the pod. Of course, like, subscribe, comment, do all the things because it really does help our podcast. And with that, I will see you in the next episode. Bye for now.